This is about the nonprofit organization, the ACLU, by Gregory Bates. Now, the specific information about the servant leadership principles employed by this organization is that the ACLU principles are models for servant leadership, which is, according to the book Leadership Theory, is about putting followers first, creating value for community, behaving ethically, empowering emotional healing, and helping followers grow and succeed. That is the principles of servant leadership. The models of servant leadership. That is the models of servant leadership in which the book explains. Now, the ACLU website states that they defend constitutional rights and represent the Constitution by protecting individual freedoms, such as free speech, religion, a woman's right to choose, the right to due process, citizens' right to privacy, and much more than that. Many people also come, and I just want to put this out there as well. Many people also go to them when it comes to police brutality, because that is something that is affecting our society and that is prevalent today, especially with all the things that is going on. The ACLU also steps in and helps with people going through police brutality. Now, what the ACLU do is that they put people first in our society. Look at what's happening around now. The U.S. government is abusing the rights of U.S. citizens, and they are known to do that. But nonprofit organization, ACLU, is there to fight for us. Now, in this video titled Leadership Expert Simon Snitzel on Putting Others First, he talks about how putting people before numbers, and that those organizations that don't sacrifice people before numbers enjoy longer success. ACLU has been around for about a century, and they continue to fight for the rights of others. They put the people first. Now, the examples of implementing servant leadership principles, as I mentioned, the ACLU models for servant leadership. And I already explained what some of those models already are, but I'm going to take it back for a second. I'm going to reiterate them for a little bit. But what they do, they implement models for servant leadership principles that help the organization success while having a positive impact on people in the community through building a community, through, as I'm going to go back here, helping people grow and succeed, etc., etc. For example, 1935, Patterson versus Alabama was about the case of the Scotto Boys. They were announcing a second decision at that time, and this was a case where they excluded black people from the jury list and denied a black defendant a fair trial. The case, 1935, Patterson versus Alabama. To briefly state this case, the Scotto Boys were about 9 African-American teenage boys who were accused of falsely raping 2 white women, and they were facing the death penalty. On the ACLU website, it stated that some of their accomplishments of their success were about this case, and where ACLU attorney Walter Pollack stepped up and defended the boys. He successfully defended the boy by arguing about the 1925 case, Gitlow versus New York, which was a Supreme Court ruling that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment required that states need to respect the Bill of Rights. He also brings up the case of Powell versus Alabama, which was due process hearing that prohibits states from sentencing someone to death without a defendant being represented by a lawyer, something the Scotto Boys was going through. They were trying to sentence them to death, and they didn't even have legal representation. Imagine that. 1930s. There's another appeal that the lawyer has done about the Scotto Boys, was Norris versus Alabama, in which appeal that he brought up in 1935, where the Supreme Court had previously overturned a conviction because the 6th and 14th Amendment was ended up violated, and that the Scotto Boys were saved also from execution. They were released because of this guy fighting and bringing up other cases. This type of model of servant leadership is creating a community value, behaving ethically, empowering, and emotional healing. Why? Because it is the ACLU who stepped up and stopped 9 African Americans from being wrongfully executed for a crime they did not commit. This ultimately helped blacks get represented in court and ultimately helped blacks get on the grand jury, all of which the ACLU has fought for, and they continue to fight for to this day. Now, my explanation of which servant leadership principles I recognize as the most valuable, of course, is going to always be putting others before myself. That is the model that I love, because people are important. And of course, I love the models of servant leadership too, which is, again, creating community value, behaving ethically, empowering, emotional healing, helping followers grow and succeed. But I'm going to take it back, putting people before yourself. As Mr. Snitsky stated, leaders eat last. That's what he stated in the video. Leaders eat last, which is, my opinion, is the ultimate servant leadership, where it is the leader who put the followers first and then the leader comes last. This is the most valuable because when one has happy followers, the organization and team will run smoother. I will integrate this phrase of what Mr. Snitsky said. Leaders eat last. And remind myself that it is the people who come first, not me as the leader. I will also continue to intertwine of having my followers grow and succeed to their full potential. I will help them grow and thrive through emotional healing while assisting them to work towards their goal. I will empower them to believe in the project. As Mr. Snitsky said, if you hire people, they will just work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, then they will put their blood, sweat, and tears. So I'll also continue to create value for a community, continue to behave ethnically, and try to empower my followers to believe in what I believe, and not just followers who just want to work. This will create value for the community and help me as a servant leader. And there are my references. The end.